Right, so we're going to do our last bit of work on human reproduction, and the topic is gestation, pre- and postnatal care. So remember, what does the word gestation mean? Gestation means that you are developing inside the uterus. Those 40 weeks, some people call it 9 months, it's actually probably closer to 10 months. The human gestation period is 40 weeks, and that means you're inside the uterus. Pre- and postnatal care. Prenatal care is the care that you take of yourself and your baby while the baby is inside you. And of course, postnatal care would mean post after the birth. So, it says study the diagram below and answer the questions that follow. So, here again, look at our resource material. We have the human fetus. What have I got over here? I can see that this region around over here is the placenta region. This over here is my fetus, which is inside the amniotic sac with the amniotic fluid in the middle over there. This placenta, of course, we know gives rise to the umbilical cord, so there are blood vessels going to and from the maternal blood. I've now familiarized myself with the resource material, and now I'm going to start looking at the questions. So, it first of all says, provide labels for A and B. Right, so as I said, I won't just go over, give the word, I'll also explain what they do. So if I look at my diagram over here, here is A, that is the umbilical cord. Now remember, the umbilical cord is what attaches us via our belly button to our mothers, to the placenta. So we can see that the umbilical cord contains blood vessels, arteries and veins that go from the fetus to the mother's blood supply. But what I want to say to you is as follows. Remember, there is no direct contact between the mother's blood supply and, of course, the baby's blood supply. Can you think of a reason why that might be?
I don't know.
Well, we know there's got to be very close contact because basically good stuff must come from the mother's blood into the baby's blood vessels and go to the baby. Waste material that the baby is producing will go from the baby via the blood and be placenta into the, umbilical cord to the placenta and into the mother's bloodstream over there. But they can't have direct contact on account of the fact that the baby is a product of 2 genes. Remember we spoke about genetic variability just now? And we spoke about the fact that a baby, because of there is a haploid sperm and a haploid egg, a baby is the product of both maternal and paternal genes, which are not exactly the same as the mother's. And therefore, if the blood came into contact with each other, again, the mother would have an immune response to her own baby. I believe we're going to Aaron from Tanin on the line.
We've got Aaron on the line. Hello, Aaron.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm fine.
I'm great, thanks. Do you have your question ready?
Yeah, I just want to know on endometrium. Sometimes you may find that endometrium gets thick, I see. So I just want to know which hormones influence it to be thick.
I didn't...
Between those 2 hormones, estrogen and progesterone.
Yes, what's he asking me?
I am not quite sure.
Sorry.
Aaron, can you repeat your question?
Won't you just please repeat it? Sorry, we didn't hear quite what you said.
Oh, I have to
Something about
repeat the question.
estrogen. Yes, please repeat the question.
Oh, sometimes you may say that you have 2 hormones, progesterone and estrogen.
Yes, yes.
So the endometrium gets thick, I see.
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to know which hormone influences those thickening.
Okay, so if we come back to that work we were looking at just now, remember, the estrogen is the hormone that starts getting the endometrium repaired. Because remember, she's menstruated there, so her endometrium is very, very thick. But with the rising levels of estrogen, we see that the endometrium begins to repair itself and become thick. But then the second hormone, once our Graafian follicle becomes the corpus luteum, the second hormone, progesterone, is the one that finishes getting it really, really thick. So the important thing you must bear in mind is that both hormones are involved in the thickening of the endometrium. Estrogen does the initial thickening, but the final thickening, getting it completely ready for the implantation of the embryo, is by means of progesterone. Does that answer your question? Oh, I think he's gone. But I believe we have Tina on the line.
We still have Tina all the way from Cape Town. Hello, Tina.
Tina, are you there? Tina's gone, I think.
Hello.
Hello, I'd like to ask a question regarding the space. the unsafe days, the fertile time, and the menstruation.
Sorry, I don't know if I'm having a hearing problem. I can't hear.
Okay, Tina, can you just repeat
Well,
your
sorry,
question?
Tina, won't you? Yeah, slowly so I can hear.
I'd like to ask a question regarding the menstruation cycle, the
Yes.
fertile time, the safe and the unsafe days.
Ah,
During the
okay.
whole-
Well, first of
yeah.
all, I want to say to you, there are no safe and unsafe days. Please, this method of contraception, of which what we call the rhythm method, is where a woman knows her cycle, or she hopes she knows her cycle, and therefore determines the time period where she is not fertile. So if her cycle was regular, then if we looked at a case like this, we know that sperm survive a number of days, the egg survives a number of days. So if she ovulates on day 14, generally from about day 10, you wouldn't want to have sex 4 days before, and you certainly wouldn't want to have sex for about 4 or 5 days afterwards. So a safe period would probably be from about day 0 to about day 9 or so, and then from about day sort of 20 all the way to the end. But as I said to you before, they say that if you're going to use the rhythm method as a method of contraception, that you have to have plotted your menstrual cycle for at least 6 months. And they say that your menstrual cycle must be absolutely regular for those 6 months. In other words, that you ovulate, you start menstruating at the same time, etc. But please bear in mind that because there are lots of things that affect the menstrual cycle, we know that it's not a good idea to use the rhythm method. And very important, please, what I want you all to take from this, if you take nothing else, is know that the highest infection rate in the world is between the ages of 15 to 24. That means you, the group that are writing matric now, are in the middle of the highest infected rate in the world where HIV is concerned. Many of you think it's some old person's disease, or you're young and invincible, or you don't really think about it, whatever. But as I say, there must be a reason why 15 to 24 is the highest infection rate in the world. So therefore, when we're talking about contraception, don't look at things like rhythm methods and all those sorts of things. You want to make sure that if you have sex, you are using a condom. End of story. Unless it's, of course, your long-time partner and you're faithful and monogamous and all the rest of it. That's if you're sure of that, because people also tell lies. It is better to always ensure that your method of contraception is a physical barrier, which is either the male condom or the female femidom, which is a big thing that I wouldn't know how anybody even uses that in the first place. But you want to create, it's true, it's a big, long tube. You want to create a physical barrier, and therefore you want to ensure that it's, to me, contraception now is less about falling pregnant, because you can always terminate a pregnancy. But if you pick up some of these viral diseases, HIV, hepatitis, herpes, there's nothing you can do. We're going to Russell on the phone from Joburg.
Well, we're going to be talking to Russell right now. Hello, Russell.
Hi, David. It's Russell here from Johannesburg.
Hi, Russell.
Hi. I just wanted to know, firstly, how does glad rap have these terrible connotations, and what kind of alternatives could you suggest?
Okay, very good question. Thank you, Russell. First of all, we know that there are certain chemicals in very soft plastics. And these chemicals are given off in terms of, and they mimic estrogen, as I said before. So the reason why that's a very good question, Russell, is on account of the fact that we want to start maybe moving away from plastics and maybe more to things like glass. Or, you know, if you want to maybe wrap your sandwiches, maybe more use like a glad wrap or a tin foil, or just put them straight into the lunch tin or something like that. But the other reason why it's important is, never mind a lot of these plastics give off hormones, is that most plastics are still not biodegradable, and therefore they create a major problem. So the alternative is to maybe use the very hard plastics, give off less hormones, or go to things like glass and these sorts of things, which are better alternatives.
Oh, okay. Russell, does that answer your question? I guess it does.
I think Russell's gone.
But like, just still on that question, is it all types of plastics, or is it just certain types
No,
of...
it's certain types. If you look at the bottom of plastics, they've got certain numbers and letters and those sort of things which give you an indication of basically sort of how soft the plastic is and how many chemicals and these kind of things are being given off.
Oh, okay.
So like they say often, like with these water bottles and these sorts of things, that you mustn't refill them and refill them and refill them. Because the longer time goes by, they give off more. And also extreme heat and extreme cold, like freezing things or cooking things in plastic things, even in the microwave, tend to increase the amount of these artificial hormones being given off.
And is this a threat only to the male hormones or mostly to the males?
It's mostly to the male. It's affecting human fertility all over, but primarily with the females. But, I mean, sorry, the males. But what you must understand is that perhaps this is maybe also nature's way. There are 7 billion humans on the planet, and just about everything else is dropping off the planet and becoming extinct. So perhaps maybe a bit of human infertility is not such a bad thing.
Hey, Bo.
Well, I know that sounds like a harsh thing to say, but there are 7 billion of us, and we don't have the resources to support us anymore. So, you know, there is a problem. But another thing that I want to just mention here is that even though there is a decrease in natural human fertility, our methods of biotechnology, reproductive technology, like in vitro and all these kind of things, has massively increased.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, I